So you want someone to look at something in a Google Sheet and you want to bring their attention to it. And sometimes it's actually really difficult because there's a lot of stuff going on in Google Sheets. So in this case, we have a trip itinerary, we have a start date, and we maybe don't know the end date. We're like, hey, someone in our group needs to select an end date. We may even select something and say, hey, we want everyone to look at this. So we'll use some colors, like even this garish blue over here is what I like to use sometimes when I'm like, you really have to look at this because it's one of the most contrasting colors. But if your sheet is a lot of colors or it has a lot of information, maybe just a color might not actually help here, especially if you have lots of colors in drop-down menus and you're maybe using a lot of drop-down menus, a lot of chips. I like to actually sometimes bring these down to advanced options, back to the arrow here. That makes it a little bit bigger over here. And as you can see, it's again getting muddled. We can add a few sort of notes and comments, right? Actually, there's a couple ways to do notes and comments. One is right click, insert note, and it says, hey, look at this. But if we click away, it's just this tiny little red corner in this note. We can delete that note. If we add a comment, let's comment, hey, look at this, everyone. We'll comment it, and when we're not clicking on it, it's a little orange button. We can click on it and see it here. You can also see, I think, over on the right side, there'll be like a comment. You can view the comments over here, show all comments. They'll be over here. And comments are really good for discussing topics and looking at things because they're tracked. And someone can say mark as resolved, they can reply to that comment. You can have a whole conversation about things. But it still doesn't, sometimes that gets muddled if you have lots of conversations and you're like, hey, at the end of the day, I just need someone to look at this end date and make sure it's correct. I want to show you a little thing that you might not know about, which is you can bring interesting shapes and colors into Google Sheets. You can go insert drawing and you can bring arrows. You can even write your own, create your own here, shapes and lines. We can have a scribble and we can say, hey, look at this. We can do crazy things like this. We can increase the pixel size a lot and make a really crazy arrow, right? And that's going to show right here. And we can change that size and we can say right there. But that's a little bit crazy, but it really is well defined. Like it's out of the shape of normal Google Sheets, right? We can do something a little more defined, which is they have some arrow shapes here. We can select, say, this arrow and draw it here. We can also change the angle. Changing the angle actually helps a lot. Change the color. We will add no border. We want to make it a little bit longer, maybe a little bit wider, actually a little bit shorter. Save and close. And this one is definitely garish, but you're going to see it. You're going to be like, hey, I can definitely see this. Like, I know someone should be looking at this, wherever this arrow is, right? You can't miss it. Like the color, right? This blue color works, but maybe we don't want to have that blue color. Maybe it's a little bit but we're like, that arrow we definitely see. And I think the arrow is helpful because it's a different angle. You can do different colors, but the angles really, we look at Google Sheets like a grid, right? We see rows, we see columns, and these are relationships we see all the time. But this kind of angled arrow is going to really bring attention to the thing we need. We can't rely on comments, especially can't rely on notes, and colors sometimes get busy here. So this angled arrow, I think, is a really good tip to add to your sheets if you're trying to get someone to see one particular part of your sheet.